Hello everyone, Jack Reeve and Benjamin Bloom here. We're back for another Reeve and Bloom episode. I want to start this episode by saying thank you. Thank you to everyone who's been watching. I've been really humbled by all of your lovely comments on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, wherever you've been watching. Ben, it's been a really positive start for this, hasn't it?
It has, but according to Twitter, you're not a humble person though, Jack.
Is this based off the Simon Jordan backlash?
I've got no idea, but
Oh, right.
no, it's been great, hasn't it? And we're still looking for topics and things to talk about. It's funny though, Jack, because we put the Q&A thing thinking, oh, what do people want? They really want Ipswich Norwich stuff, don't they? Which is
it's funny because when we sort of finished the episode last week, we had our little debrief, if you want to call it that, after we were like, we've probably done all of Ipswich Norwich now. And then, like you say, all of the questions pretty much are based on Norwich and Ipswich. The hunger for that topic is still very much there.
Well, there we go. And The Athletic have gone with something about ITV Digital collapsing today. So I'm sure all of Ipswich Town Twitter today is going to be bemoaning being relegated in the season, and the Blue Monday WhatsApp group is already going, oh my God, we get relegated at the worst time, they get promoted at the best time.
I'm really intrigued. You've mentioned the Blue Monday WhatsApp chat a few times. Is it just constant kind of feeling sorry for yourselves in terms of Ipswich?
Do you know what I think the Blue Monday WhatsApp chat is? I think it's the stuff that the people in the Blue Monday group want to say on Twitter but know better, so they say privately. I mean, to be honest, there's without slapping our backs, we actually get some quite good stuff, and they're all very good at not saying the. I'm sure you get tip-offs and whatnot, but no, it's I take the mick out of it. We go back and forth with each other, but it's a good place to share information. It's a good little think tank, if that's not a horribly David Brent term. And sometimes, Jack, you do need to write the email out, read it, print it off, and then not send it, don't you? And I think
that's remarkably wise in this day and age to do that. I think it's good to have that release. I do remember actually. I think it was ahead of one of the East Anglian derbies. You tipping me off the team news couple of minutes before it was released. I was very chuffed about that.
Yeah, there you go.
So
do you have a TNC WhatsApp group?
We do. So it's me, Chris, Max, who sort of films and edits for us sometimes, and Emma, who does our graphic design. Some of the stuff we put in there is repeatable. Most of it. So we'll leave it at that, I think.
I think we need to exchange screenshots, but that might throw a few people under the bus, mightn't it?
Yeah, possibly. I just want to quickly. There were a few comments on our last episode. Sam Gaffney said, "Would love to hear your greatest Norwich and Ipswich teams of all time. Would love more content. It's keeping me going during these times without Norwich City. Thanks, Jack and Ben." Thanks to Sam. And Expo Gaming said, "Would love a discussion on the financial ramifications for the clubs if the EFL were to play with no crowds until 2021. I think you've done a few bits of
the problem is that I love talking about football finance and Jack hates it. So
I don't mind it. It's just it always comes back to if only Ipswich had the parachute payments.
Oh no, it's not if Ipswich had the payments. Do you know what I'm going to do? Actually, I'm speaking to Kieran Maguire on Friday. I'm going to actually add up the. I'm going to re-ratchet it. So I'm going to join all the solidarity payments and the parachute payments and divide them fairly. And ask Kieran Maguire, would that work better? And if he says no, I'll shut up about the parachute. I'll shut up about the parachute payments. But ridiculously, because we're football fans, we should be talking about corners and free kicks and goals. But genuinely, the number one biggest factor in Championship football, which I cover, is parachute payments, and whether we like it or not.
Yeah, definitely. That comment came on the TalkNorwichCity video. So if you want some good financial discussion, go over to Ben's channel.
Go to Kieran's podcast with Kevin Hunter, for God's sake. Yeah.
I did see, I'm sure you've covered it as well, Ben, that Colchester have had to release a few players, Frank Noble being one of them. I mean, that's an East Anglian club that's already been hit. a fairly well-established football club. I know they're not haven't been in the top divisions for a little while, but
both our clubs got two
there.
of our best managers from Colchester, didn't we? Got Burley from Colchester, and you got Lambert.
Yeah, I mean, it's surely there's only that's going to be the first of many, isn't it? In that kind of format of what's happened there.
Yeah, so I mean, you can look at Colchester, look at Luton as well, because the decision there, and you would have probably been at Luton pre-season, wouldn't you, for the friendly down there? They've taken the manager out and basically said, well, I forget what I did a video on actually. I forget what the quote said, but we'll review when the landscape is clearer. So they've basically put the management team of their club into hibernation.
Has he been sacked or not?
He's gone. Yeah, he won't be coming back. Well, the thing with Luton though is they've got Mick McCarthy there, who's like Gary Bowyer at Blackburn, or who's the one at Forest who always comes in and manages them about. So they've got Mick McCarthy to do it, but they've effectively gone into hibernation, and we've got these contract issues as well. Like you mentioned, Frank Nouble did have a less than amazing run at Ipswich, didn't he? But we'll move on from Nouble apparently.
Nouble, is it?
Yeah.
Let's just call him Big Frank.
Big Frank. That's the most football banter thing ever. You'll be taking the mick out of my clothes in a minute. No, you're gonna see it, aren't you? And I suppose it makes sense. And I guess the one thing is that hopefully works out for the players is that there'll be a lot of them that will get released, but then they will get taken. Do you know what I mean? They will get taken back when things happen. But you know that obviously it's a hierarchy, isn't it? So the best players that get released will then get taken on. But effectively though, Jack, if they're free agents, anyone can sign them.
Yeah.
Although that might be the least sort of good PR that any club could ever do in picking up. And I say that knowing that the Norwich Luxembourg guy was done in January, wasn't it?
It was, yes. It was.
That wasn't a dig, don't worry.
No, it's fascinating. I was listening to a podcast that Sol Campbell did with Colin Murray, and one of the quotes.
Is he quite smart, Jack?
Sol Campbell.
He comes across as a bit eccentric.
I can't quite work him out. But one of the lines that really stuck with me is he said, "We don't want to be used as guinea pigs," and I think it's so like people are speaking of football as if they're superhuman. They can't catch coronavirus and it won't affect them. And the only way I can see football returning in the near future is if we literally lock them down in sort of airtight accommodation for months on end and just play the games out. Other than that, people are going to be returning home to families. There's a massive infrastructure that goes behind just getting a football match on. There's so many people affected in this, and until there's a vaccine and there's the cases are dropping, I don't think there'll be a return. And that's why my notifications this morning are filled with Leeds fans, because I said the season has to be null and voided, and so did Simon Jordan. I did agree with him. One of the few times I've agreed with Simon Jordan. Anyway, let's get into some questions, shall we? Should I start with one from my Twitter, Ben?
Yeah, go for it, and we'll rotate, shall we?
Yeah, cool. So Sam Pitcher asks, if you could go back to any era and watch any game from the history books, what would it be?
Oh God. So it doesn't have to be Ipswich or Norwich.
It doesn't have to be. No, I have gone with a Norwich game for my answer, but you can pick whatever you like.
It'd probably be I'm such a glutton for punishment. It'd probably be the England-Argentina Maradona game, which ultimately we're gonna lose, and see the I was aware of football a few years after that, and I don't know, there's just something about Maradona. Don't get me wrong, I love Messi and Ronaldo, but there's something about a fallible, like Gascoigne or Ronaldinho or something like a fallible genius. And I apparently, from what Lineker said and Peter Reid and all the quotes, he was just like an absolute force of nature. And I think there's sort of 100,000 people in there, and the handball goal, and we nearly get it back to 2-2 at the end. And so I'll go for 86 World Cup. Was it quarter-final? Wasn't it? Yeah.
Quarters, yeah. That's a good answer. Mine's slightly less sort of well-known across the world. Mine was the Bayern Munich game, in which Norwich were in Europe. I mean, me and Chris always say on TNC how we'd love to see Norwich in Europe. Like, I really hope that if we do ever get to that position, I'll be in a situation to just sort of drop what's going on and just fly
Oh,
to
you'll find a way, don't worry.
Azerbaijan or something just to make it. It just feels so wonderful. Whenever I've gone to Germany for pre-season, it just feels so good watching your club in another country. And that game to beat Bayern Munich in their own backyard must have been special. 1993, Gossi and Bowen. Yeah, that would have
Mark
been.
Bowen scored in that game. You forget that,
Yeah,
don't you? Jeez, how
I
many
know.
goals did he ever score for Norwich? Christ.
Yeah, I mean we went 2-0 up. That's unbelievable, isn't it? Absolutely unbelievable. Yeah, it has to be that game for me. 1993. I'd love to have just experienced it. To be honest, I wouldn't have even wanted to be in the ground if I couldn't have got a ticket. Just to be in Munich, that would have been amazing. Right, next question.
You can get into Europe by winning the Fair Play League, can't you?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So just don't tackle anyone for the for the entire season, and you'll definitely, because we got relegated and got into Europe. Was that must have been the Fair Play, because we were in Europe and in the second tier in 2002, 2003. Yeah.
I know Wigan did it, didn't they? They were in Europe in the Championship.
Yeah.
There's been some really odd ones like that.
Did Wigan win the cup and get relegated in the same season?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, that's incredible. But that's the whole debate of, would you win a trophy and be relegated? You've got to go for the trophy, haven't you, surely?
Yeah, I think so. And then Europe the next season. Although your season basically starts in like July, doesn't it, for Europa League qualification?
Oh my God. Yeah, and
so
it brutalised
games.
Brutalised us when we were in. You have to be good to cope with Europe. I mean, there's a reason why these two. Who was it went to Atletico Madrid? I think it might have been like Bolton or something, and just sent the reserves or something. It might have even been Stoke or something crazy like that. But yeah,
I always laughed at TNS from the Welsh Premier League always getting the Champions League, don't they? And I can remember it was like 2005, and Liverpool rocked up there in like July, and you had Xabi Alonso and Steven Gerrard having come off the back of winning it, I think.
Amazing.
Playing at the New Saints. Yeah, amazing. Next question.
Can I give you this one, Jack? This one's from YouTube, from Sean. Just because it's a bit outside of our normal sphere. Well, no, you're Premier League, aren't you? Opinions on the Newcastle takeover, mainly the fans' embrace of MBS. I assume MBS is this. So this is Saudi money. So first of all, about it not being Mike Ashley, and then about it being Saudi.
Yeah, I don't know enough about the people or the organisation putting the money in. I know that the money where it's sourced from is.
You mean you're not going to talk about something political without all the information, Jack? What is this? Do you not know how the world works today?
What I have thoroughly enjoyed is seeing the true Geordie sort of lose his head over the news that they might be signing like Philippe Coutinho, and Champions League football is basically guaranteed. What I can assure you is the save on Football Manager next season is going to be a lot of fun with Newcastle and all that money in the bank. I don't know. Look, Mike Ashley, we all know what he's about. Very shrewd businessman, but maybe not the nicest of people. I'm trying to put this in the most political way possible. But yeah, look, has it actually gone through yet? I've seen a lot of sort of people saying that broadcasters might try and block it. What will be fascinating is to see another club sort of break into that top six with a bit of cash behind them. The one thing I do know is that Newcastle are a massive club. Whenever we've gone up there in the Championship or the Premier League, they're always followed by tens and tens of thousands of people, a massive stadium. The city is brilliant. Like, I love Newcastle. I love the people. What they do deserve is good football, and they deserve success. How that success comes is maybe is a different argument, and I'm going to have to look into the kind of Saudi regime slightly more. I know it's not the best, but look, football has never been funded by the best of money, has it?
No, it's I mean, there's so much on it, isn't it? Because it's effectively like, any business in the world. Where do you take your money from? There's an argument that any money is evil at some point. The real interesting thing is that I think is the parallel to Ipswich, because you've got Mike Ashley and you've got Marcus Evans, right? And if football was in any way normal or sensible, they are both good owners, as in they run the club kind of responsibly, so it'll still be there next season. Everything's done on kind of pounds, shillings and pence. And it's just so weird, because I was listening to the Sunday Supplement talk about it. And And then in the same breath, these journalists are saying, "Oh, but the Geordies, they just want a dream," and it's like, which one is it? You know, is it
Yeah.
gambling a load of money? But yeah, it'll be very interesting. I hope it's good for them because, like you say, I think in the country there's a few kind of brilliantly supported clubs. You know, where it's different than, even like Newcastle, you'd have ahead of more successful sides like
Yeah.
Chelsea, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You know, for support. So it'll be very interesting. But
The other thing we kind of have to take into consideration here is Newcastle have an identity, I think, at the moment. They have a culture about them. What you don't want to lose is the money pouring in, and that's great, and that will bring success on the pitch eventually. But if you lose a bit of the kind of culture off the pitch,
or try to change it too quickly,
all that sense of belonging kind of goes, then what's the point of supporting? You know, and that's always been the big thing for me. There's always that discussion with Norwich fans being like, well, could we attract someone with more money? And then people are like, well, if someone, comes in and...
Can we parlay that into another question, Jack?
Yeah, go for it, mate.
Amazingly, this is from Liam NUFC on YouTube, so presumably he's a Newcastle fan. Is it time for Norwich to sell because Norwich will always be a yo-yo team? I think we touched on this a couple of times about Michael and Delia and how that would work, and I'm sure they would sell if it was to the right right guy, wouldn't they? What do you think?
They've said that if the right offer comes in, that they'll sell, but they've never had the right offer come in. And I think when you look at, there was a table published the other week, and I'm sure it's commonly available, of like where the owners rank in terms of how much wealth they have behind them. And Delia and Michael are right at the bottom, I think, followed next by Burnley, the owners of Burnley. They're worth about £20 million. You compare that to the Saudi regime that's just come in at Newcastle, we're talking tens of billions of pounds behind them. So it's a massive difference. What Norwich fans have to realise is we're good enough for the Championship, sometimes too good, which means we're then promoted into the Premier League. And sometimes we're just about good enough for the Premier League. Often we're not quite good enough. And we've seen that we've tried to gamble it before to stay in it, with signing Naismith, signing players on big contracts, and just trying as hard as we can to chuck everything at it and hoping it worked. It didn't work, and it sent us into a situation that we never want to be in again, in terms of right up against it. And we've talked before that the sale of James Maddison kind of almost saved Norwich City. So we don't want to be in that position before. I enjoy being a Norwich fan. I enjoy being a yo-yo club to some extent. I enjoy the Championship more at this present moment than the Premier League because we're more competitive. I prefer the away days. There's so much more about it. I won't go into it all. I don't know at the moment if there are better owners suited to Norwich City than Delia and Michael. There will come a stage when they will have to sell. I just hope that they get it right, and I'm sure that they will get it right. It also takes someone wanting to buy Norwich. I mean, they're probably not the most attractive club to purchase. They're stuck out on a limb. In terms of growth, there's probably not much more. We've got the whole catchment area already, so there's not really too much chance to bring in new fans. So, look, I'm sure there will be people interested. Will it make us suddenly a whole lot better and take us into the top 10 of the Premier League, which is probably the next step up? Probably not. So at the moment, I'm happy. I guess it depends what you want from your football club. Do you want just on-field success and not much else? Then probably we need to sell. If you kind of just go because you like what the club's about and what it does in the community, then we're kind of the best in the business at that, I think.
Well, if you speak to West Brom fans as well, Jack, they've enjoyed the last couple of seasons more than constantly churning out 15th, 13th, 17th, etc., etc.
And I think it takes so much more money to take.
I was just going to say that.
You can kind of hop between the Championship and the Premier League on not much cash, I think. I mean, we've seen a lot smaller teams than Norwich go up to the Premier League. To then break into that next level, you're needing to spend like £60 million a transfer window, which is suddenly a massive step up to what we've got at the moment. So, yeah, it's a really tough one. But Delia and Michael have said that they'll sell if the right offer comes in.
Yeah, it would have to. I mean, it's strange, isn't it? Because you see like Michael Dell, the American billionaire, interested for Derby, and it's almost like they want the Championship team where they can boost the revenue from nothing to
Yeah,
massive more than they want Burnley or Norwich, isn't it? It's like
yeah,
they want to take it right through, and it must be a stocks thing, mustn't it? It must be the percentage it increases rather
of
than
course.
rather than what they've got. But I can't see how. I know Derby historically, they've won the title as recently as the 70s, and I suppose the location is brilliant and the ground's a bit bigger. But Norwich Derby, Derby Norwich, Norwich Derby.
Similar, isn't it? Similar, but I mean, I don't know the exact numbers, but Derby seem to have had more money than Norwich over the last sort of 10 years, and
Oh, they've
Norwich,
tried everything. They've tried
yeah,
absolutely
Norwich's
everything to.
success have been far greater. So, yeah, it's a tough one, and everyone's seen the kind of journey of Sunderland over the past few years, thanks to the Netflix documentary, and they had some money behind them. They had two people that seemed like they deeply cared about them, and it didn't work for them. So.
Just quickly,
Very
Jack,
tough.
what is the upside for Norwich attendances? But let me paint this hypothetical scenario. Say, I don't know, a new owner does come and there's 2, 3 seasons in the Premier League, and they, bank that money, can build a new stand. What realistically do you think they can draw?
Well, we can. I mean, we sell out each week now, and we were selling out each week in the Championship. So 27,000's a doddle. I think we could push it to 35 and sell out some weeks. I mean, Premier League football is obviously there's far greater appeal, so you would sell it out in that league. It depends then if you were to drop down in the Championship. I don't think we'd sell 35,000 tickets a week then. But it's something that I know that Norwich are looking into. One of the big things that Stuart Webber wanted to leave as his legacy was leaving Colney, our training ground, as a far better facility.
That's
And he
done,
pumped
isn't it?
loads of money into that. Yeah, funded by fans, and that's now been all paid back. So that's done. The next step is probably expanding Carrow Road, which is a massive, massive task. David McNally wanted to do it in his 7-year plan, I think it was. That never quite materialised. Stuart's probably looking at a similar thing, but the expense that it is, we're talking like tens of millions of pounds to expand it. So, it's either do you want Ricky Van Wolfswinkel, or do you want an extra stand above the City stand? I don't know. Look, I think if the Carrow Road needs to be made bigger, I think we just need to time it really well.
I just think, when you look at it, okay, it's out on a limb, but if it was bigger and it was full, and I mean, for God's sake, just sell a few more away tickets if it's not going to be full. If you're in the Premier League, it'll be full anyway. You don't see how the upside couldn't be any different for, say, a North East club, which is like, oh, it's difficult to go there. They're the only one up
true.
there. Do you know what I mean? I think there's. But I can tell you all about, because David Sheepshanks, his legacy was he's going to build up the Churchmans and the North Stand, and we've got the right size ground if we're in the top 6 of the Championship. But then if you in season 106 of McCarthy ball at home to whoever on a Tuesday night, Barnsley, and there's 11,000, and there's genuinely Ipswich fans taking pictures of the stands to see how much they're fudging the attendances, because we all thought there was less than 11,000 in there. So
I remember that actually. That was last season, wasn't it? When
it's 2 seasons ago. The attendances were fine. They went up a fair bit last season. Post McCarthy, but God, there was some Tuesday nights there, God, where you look around. But top news, Jack, the back of the North Stand has been cleaned. My club
during lockdown.
During lockdown, yeah. And Andy Warren, who you probably know, the EADT journalist, he's been banging on about this for clean the roof standards. Come on, standards begin and.
So it's just the roof that's been cleaned?
I think they've cleaned the back of it as well. Yeah.
Well, that's no signings for you this summer then. It's all been splashed on some power spray.
Oh God, wait for the salary cap to come and we have to release all our players. Yeah, God.
Amazing. Right, let's get another question here. Okay. Elliot Waterfield, which player who you've seen in your lifetime would you take from each other's team? So one Norwich player that you'd taken to Ipswich, and one Ipswich player that I'd taken to Norwich. You can go first.
God. So assuming we had to do it in recent times or in the right context, we would have needed to have been billed around a whole one team built around one player, it'd probably
Yeah.
be Maddison. Because
Okay.
yeah, it's all very well having a super striker or a super defender or a keeper or whatever, but if you have like a number 10 or a midfield player,
Mm.
yeah, so that would have been Maddison under Mick, who would have probably played him as a second striker. You laugh, but when Mick has good players, the football's a bit different than when he has
Yeah.
Jordan Spence and Jonas Knudsen at fullbacks and whatnot. Probably in the context of comparing the two clubs at the same time. Obviously, you could say Chris Sutton, but that was at a time when we weren't terrible and in League One and unable to compete in the Championship. Probably Maddison. Maddison's the best Norwich player I've seen since Bellamy, probably,
Yeah.
which was late 90s, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Had he gone before? Yeah, Maddison.
Yeah, it was late 90s. Who was the winger that you had on loan under Mick?
We had two good ones. We had Tom Lawrence, who's at
Tom
Derby
Lawrence,
now, and
that's
Ryan Fraser was a joke. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
way too. That was like a cheat. That was like Villa having Tammy Abraham. It was wasn't fair,
Tom Lawrence, he was very exciting. What's he doing nowadays? I haven't heard
Tom
his name.
Lawrence, he's trying not to get involved in drunken nights and car crashes with Richard Keogh anymore. But no, he obviously had that. Was involved in that, and if we're going on the internet, we should tread very carefully about how we speak about that,
Yes.
as I'm sure your journalism qualifications will tell you. But no, I think he's had a lot of damage to his reputation. I think in the Championship he can be a good player. Obviously, Fraser, if Bournemouth are relegated, I think we'll get a big move. I
can't even remember him playing for you. Why can't I remember that?
Jack, this is Ipswich. He got injured. We had him. So this is the season after we lost to you in the playoffs. So this is 15-16.
Really? Can't remember that.
We were top of the league after probably 5 or 6 games, and he had a really good thing going with Freddie Sears. Because Freddie's only as good as the players you kind of put around him, and they were moving the ball nice and quickly. And we just brought Brett Pittman in, but obviously he wasn't a Mick type of player. So. Well, we know how the story's gone since then. But he was great, Jack. And it's when you get I don't know, Norwich history with loan players really, but when you're in the Championship, you can get that player who you would never be able to afford. We had Gio Dos Santos, for God's sake, under Jim Magilton. He was just way too good for us,
That reminded me of an article I saw last night. It's amazing how sometimes you just forget certain players played for the club. It was like 10 players that you forgot played for Real Madrid, and I was looking at it, I was like,
Thomas Gravesen?
I can't remember. Amazing.
Jonathan Woodgate?
Yeah, Woodgate. One player that I'd take in Norwich from Ipswich, it was really surprising when we did our last video and we were doing our combined 11. I thought Darren Bent was going to be an absolute certainty for you. I'd take Darren Bent. I must admit, I've only really seen highlights from his time at Ipswich, but whenever I watched him for whatever club he was at, he was really exciting. I just loved the way that Darren Bent played. And Norwich haven't really had a striker who's really quick and powerful and can finish for quite a long while. I can't really remember.
Jerome?
Yeah, Cameron Jerome, I suppose. I don't think he necessarily had the talent of Darren Bent, but no. I guess he'd be a similar kind of player. But yeah, I really loved watching Darren Bent.
Well, we struggled, didn't we, doing that, because we were just constantly having this debate of, do we judge the player on what they did at our club or what they did after? And you made a really good point that, screw your Marcus Stewart and your Timu Pukki, and Darren Bent kicks all their asses on scoring tons of goals in the Premier League for many, many years. I think for Ipswich fans, Stewart will always be associated with a promotion, with scoring the goals in the first leg of the semi-final and then the 20-odd goals in the Premier League, whereas Ben, we missed out twice in the playoffs when he was there. And I think you always go with your emotions, don't you? So, but and you can't see that as the same way that an outsider can sometimes. You can't see it objectively, can you? It's and until we get promoted to the Premier League again, Marcus Stewart will be my favourite player, because how can anyone top it? Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, I suppose it's similar for us as Lewis Grabban. If you're a neutral, you look at him and go, scored a lot of goals for Norwich, important goals for Norwich, and did relatively well. Norwich fans look at him and go, well, he kind of betrayed us when we needed him most and kind of let us down. So yeah, emotions do get in the way of looking at talent, I think. Yeah, question from your end, Ben.
Yeah, this is Paul M, who's got Paul McCartney as his profile picture. I don't know if it is Sir Paul, wanting to hear what Reeve and Bloom have to say. Best goal you've seen scored against your team? I'll start. Lewis McGugan's free kick against us for Forest. Literally unbelievable. Love the new series. I have to confess, Jack is actually kind of likeable, and I won't read the next bit.
I love how he just said kind of likeable. Like, he might make his mind up that I'm actually likeable in a few episodes, but I'm glad.
Go with that. Take what you can get, man. Take what you can get. Best goal scored against your team.
Actually, I remember that the Lewis McGugan goal. He had a season, didn't he, where he was just absolutely unplayable.
The funniest thing about that, Jack, is there's a slow-mo from behind him, and the Ipswich fans are behind the goal, and they're watching the ball curl, and they're like, that's going in. How has he scored from there? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was. He was unplayable. I think 2 goals stand out for me. The first one, you can pick any of Luis Suarez's goals. The guy was an absolute joke. He was a fantastic footballer week in, week out, but whenever he stepped out on the pitch,
my God,
he was unplayable. And one of my favourite TNC podcast moments was when we had John Ruddy on the podcast, and he said that there were times he was genuinely thinking about faking an injury ahead of the ball. He did not want to play against him.
But Jack, as soon as you've got that in your head, you're done before you even go out on the pitch, aren't you?
But he was remarkable, and I got to see him in the flesh at Carrow Road probably 3 times. I think he scored 2 hat-tricks and 4 goals in that time. He scored 4 times against us.
He scored from near the halfway line, didn't he?
He done that about 3 times. It was an absolute joke. I think the one that
Can I just ask, Jack, did you applaud any of the goals?
Yeah, I did. There were great moments. The one where he missed an absolute sitter and all the Norwich fans were giving him proper...
just for narrative, that is one of the...
Later he bangs on him from 25.
But Jack, the finish with the one touch outside of the foot, and then it's the best bit of shithousery you'll ever see.
Yeah, he was just one of them players that really got you riled up, but just continuously scored great goals.
Love it.
The one for me was when it was chucking it down with rain. It was back in 2013, I think, around that time. I think he'd only just joined Liverpool, or maybe the season before, from Ajax. And the ball, it's a long ball up from Steven Gerrard, I think, cleared from their box after a Norwich corner. It comes down to Elliot Ward. Elliot Ward mistimes the touch, but it's not a terrible touch. Luis Suarez snaps in and then just lobs Ruddy from the halfway line. And it's just the most remarkable goal, and that sealed it for them that day. And he did that so many times. He was just a phenomenal player. Still is a phenomenal player. The other one that stands out, I think you were at the game, I might be wrong, was the Fernando Forestier goal.
I was going to mention that.
Ridiculous.
I've never seen a ball hit that hard.
No, and there was no backlift from his leg. It just came out of nowhere.
To be fair to some Norwich fans around me, okay, you're top of the league, just about to get promoted, so the move was good. To be fair, quite a few Norwich fans applauded that goal.
Yeah, no, I don't think there was anything else you could do, because they nearly went on to win that game, because Fletcher scored
dubious Danny Haynes-ish goal, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was remarkably. It should never have counted. And then Mario Vrancic scores that wonderful.
The one time I thought I was going to leave early.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I walked. I was in. What's the Stanley Way fans sit in?
The Gerald.
Yeah, so I'm in the middle of the Gerald stand. Pretty good seat actually. Yeah. And I've because I'm a nerd and I'm doing match reviews. I've got the stoppage time on my phone, haven't I? Okay. So I know exactly what's happening. I'm that guy. I know I look really cool, but I'm just not. So slowly go, and then they get the free kick, and I'm stood.
So you're actually walking out.
Yeah, so I'm stood in the concourse bit, and the steward goes, can you move on? Just watch this. So I was like, you like pitch level. So to be fair, I had an amazing view because I think I was about the same height as Vrancic was when he took the free kick. And obviously you can imagine I'm an Ipswich fan, and he steps up and he puts it in the top corner, and I just laughed. I'm just like, I cannot believe this club. I cannot believe this. They everything goes for. You can imagine that was at 96th minute as well. And then I had loads of rows with Norwich fans on YouTube afterwards. I was like, right, he put up 4 minutes stoppage time and you made a sub, and he ran off in about 10 seconds, and all these Norwich fans are mailing me going, but it's minimum stoppage time. I'm like, I don't care, it's 96 minutes. But to be fair to Vrancic, it was about 90 seconds between the free kick being given and him popping it in the top corner. But hey, as I said at the time, it was a really weird one because you could have been like 3-0 up in half an hour, and then they scored, and you got Norwich nervous, didn't you?
Yeah, and then they scored again, and it was like, oh god, we're really going to try and
Here we go.
Away.
Steve Bruce, though, isn't it? Never an easy game in the Championship against Gary Monk, Steve Bruce, Mick McCarthy, Neil Warnock. It's never. Yeah. You're better than them, but never those guys keep getting hired for a reason, don't they?
Yeah, it's very true. What about you then, other than McGugan?
There's one I need to mention from before I was born was Frank Worthington in the 70s. Just go out of your way if you're a young Norwich fan to look up this goal on YouTube. He's playing for Bolton. If you don't know anything about Frank Worthington, he's like the classic smoking, womanising 70s footballer who didn't train and then just did stupid things. But the ball's being cleared. The entire Ipswich defence is all coming out. He takes a touch, does 2 kick-ups, lobs the ball over his head. All the Ipswich defence step up. It's incredible. And then he volleys it in past the keeper. That's acknowledged as the best goal ever scored against Ipswich. The best one I've seen is Leighton Baines and again, look out this one. Leighton Baines for Wigan in a brilliant game for us. Darren Bent scored in this game. We went top of the league at Christmas 2005 and then didn't get promoted. So big callback to the ITV digital thing. And then we've been in ruins ever bloody since. But Leighton Baines scores if you looked up Thunder Bastard in the dictionary, all it would need to say is Leighton. It's ridiculous, Jack. And you know when it's preposterous, where it's like you cannot shoot from there because you cannot generate enough power. In the same way with Forestier's goal, it just flies in the top corner. And but that was weird because was
he playing left back then or further up the pitch?
Good question that, because he swapped from right back to he's right-footed but played both sides, didn't he? I think he was playing. Is he? Someone will correct me. I think you're right. I think he's a right-footed left back, which was always strange. But just ludicrous goal.
Leighton Baines he had that season for a couple of really good seasons for Everton when he was like the first player in your fantasy team because he was on penalties, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I mean
get your clean sheets and the penalty points as well.
And we've talked about it a lot on here and about Aarons and Lewis and the role of the fullback and all of those things. But yeah, maybe a forerunner to. But I mean, to be fair, there was always fullbacks who would get forward and contribute. But I think the Liverpool dudes just take it to excess now, don't they?
A whole new level. Again, we've talked about players that we forgot played for certain clubs. Completely forgot Leighton Baines had played for Wigan. So another thing I've learned today.
Yeah, promoted. Good team, that, Jack. Good team with Robertson, Ellington up front.
Yeah, very good team. I love the people that send in sort of statements rather than questions where we can't answer them. But Jules has just said, I love these shows, Jack. Ben Bloom is a top guy, very well informed and respectful. Exclamation mark. So thanks, Jules. We always get statements from people on the TNC podcast. People just telling us about how their day's been. And I love that. Absolutely love that. Right. Next question comes from Owen Omega. And he says, what games in the last decade do you think Ipswich should have won but weren't clinical enough? I'll go for the 1-0 loss at home, Madison goal, fans laying on the roof, and the game when we conceded in the last minute to Tim Close.
Yeah, I mean he's got the two. He's got the two obvious ones. There's a few, and it's I think we discussed this in the East Anglian Derby special, which you should go out of your way to check out if you haven't watched already in either mine or Jack's feeds. Ipswich have bottled the derbies for a long time now, and I know they're horrible, and I know they're nerve-wracking, but there's been a lot, especially when you've got McCarthy as your manager. You know they're going to be tight anyway, and I saw this question come in, and can I say the one thing that everybody forgets about the Tim Closer game?
Mm.
A minute after Luke Chambers scored, Jonas Knudsen was
Yeah.
clear,
Yeah.
and David McGoldrick had a tap in,
Yeah.
and Knudsen, not being Martin Waghorn, couldn't find a really straightforward pass that. If you or I were completely fit, had done no running, and we were just put in that position, okay, we haven't just played 90 minutes,
Yeah.
we would make the pass. Do you know what I mean?
That's Ipswich's moment of Harry Kane possibly could have squared it to Raheem Sterling, isn't it?
Exactly the moment you freeze that and you have your Twitter account of unfortunate football events out of context or whatever they are. They bottled that one. The 1-1 draw. Oh God, I can't even think. There was so many There was like 6 1-1 draws or something.
There were.
There's just a real sense to the question from Owen, wasn't it? Just a sense that Ipswich have bottled a lot of them. If I got a funny feeling, if they'd just before Leitner scored in the Paul Hurst Daniel Farker one, they'd just held out 5 more minutes there because you scored maybe 13 minutes. The thing that always used to get me was Norwich's ability to take the lead without having had any play. That kind of showed maybe Ipswich's inferiority complex in those games. But no, there's been a few. I mean, it just used to bug us when they used to be flat. Do you know what I mean? I think you used that term to talk about the Madison game, where you kind of think let's lose and go for it. But I suppose history would say that Mick knew what he was doing. And we just never managed to snatch one. But definitely 3 or 4 where you'd probably even feel as an Norwich fan, we could have lost that one.
Yeah, massively. I think that Madison one is the one that sticks out for me. I've said it in another one of these videos, but just walked out of that game feeling really flat, although we'd won in an East Anglian derby, and just thought both of these clubs lack any real quality.
Jack, can I just tell you, from an Ipswich fan, the annoying thing about that is that game was a nothing game, and either side could have won it. And I think the thing that was really annoying as an Ipswich fan is that when Madison scored the goal, we've lost, we're done. That was it. Do you know what I mean? It was like, we're done. They've done us again. You know, they've scored. I don't remember. It must have been 55, 60.
Yeah, it wasn't very late, was
60, it? So there's plenty of time. You know, get your subs on. That was the point where we could use McGoldrick as a kind of creative player or what have you. Yeah, so many missed opportunities. But there you go.
Yeah. Right. Let's get another question from you.
Let's have a look. I have to read this because these guys are very nice to me. Erica, say this pod should be called Bloom and Reevesy after Saint and Greavesy, which is a callback to the early 90s TV football. And those guys, I went to see one of your games at Reading, and they bought me dinner.
Brilliant.
Which is very, very nice of them. Ian asks, are both Mackham, so he's a Sunderland fan, from the Championship down, which clubs do you think will be okay? He's a Sunderland fan asking you which clubs are going to be okay. Sort of from the Championship downwards, who do you think's going to be okay? And I'll add my bit onto it, Jack.
In terms of financially?
In terms of, just financially and keeping things going. And who do you think might actually be able to take advantage?
From the Championship down, I tell you who I've really enjoyed watching this season, Peterborough.
Yeah.
I've really liked the way that they've played. There's a few Peterborough fans in the office, and they've said that they've been to a lot of the games this season. They're just really exciting to watch. I think they're set up fairly well. Swindon have looked really good. I've really enjoyed watching Swindon play this season, although all of their goals have basically come from loanees, haven't they?
Haven't they got that fella who's scored like 28 goals or something?
Yeah. Is it Owen Doyle?
But I think he's on loan from someone in the same division as well, which seems a very strange, incestuous setup, doesn't it?
Yeah. Let me have you go ahead. I'm trying to think of teams I haven't looked at them tables for a while, so
it's just going to be the ones that either are able to create more revenue or are running well. And Brentford put their results out 4 days ago. I think they're going to do a Spurs, and they're going to build a new stadium and be in profit. So do look out for Brentford. They're Paul Warne, again.
Yeah, I
Right,
was
yeah,
about to say Rotherham.
yeah,
Yeah.
always run well. The thing,
What
and
happens with Coventry, by the way?
God knows.
Yeah.
Again, there's lots of loanees, and they're renting a stadium and all that.
Mhm.
Really, really nice side though, Jack. You like the
Yeah,
way
yeah,
you like the way they played, and they've got, and I'm going to forget his name. O'Hare. They've got a midfielder on loan
yeah,
from Villa, who's really good player. But yeah, you'd worry about Coventry, Southend,
yeah. Oh,
Macclesfield,
Southend, though.
Colchester. Yeah, it's going to be the obvious ones for me, the ones that are running well. You just have to worry a little bit about, as much as I love Bielsa, people like Leeds who, they've made this plan and they've got this elite manager in, and they're right at the end of it, but there's a real sense that if they don't get this done now and get that 100 million in,
Yeah,
this is going to fold back,
yeah.
and you get the idea some owners have one really good punt in them, and it's
Yes.
going to last 3 to 4 years, and then they're going to have to pass it on. So
Yeah.
I mean, you'd worry if they were in whatever way denied promotion. I think that could scupper them, and then you can imagine take Bielsa out of Leeds with that group of players who are all like a foot taller with him as the manager.
Yeah.
That that could be interesting, and not and then Phillips goes, and
Massively.
yeah. So but he's got Mackham in his name there, Ian. You would assume Sunderland's ability to draw revenue in League One would mean that they would be okay. Although, did you
Yeah.
see the report from the Daily Mail the other day saying there was a Northern League One player, Will Grigg, being paid £15,600 per week basic,
Wow.
and
Wow.
I had a guess that it might be Glenn Whelan over at Fleetwood, because I think he was a free transfer and he was making like 35 a week. But yeah,
What
that
Fleetwood he was.
no, at Villa he was making
Oh,
35.
okay.
God, Jack, you saw the Villa wage bill, didn't
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
There were players on the Villa bench making,
It's
two and a
bonkers.
half million, 3 million a year. So,
Bonkers. The clubs I really, I think I've said this a few times. I really couldn't care less what division Norwich are in next season, whether it's null and void, whether we play it out. I really don't care. All I want is the absolute minimum clubs that go under that happen. The clubs I really fear for, like the likes of Stevenage, Southend, Macclesfield. I mean, they're in a real state if this continues for a little while, which I think it will. So I think it was who is it? Someone Slater on the
oh,
Athletic.
Matt Slater, he's excellent, Jack.
Slater,
He's good. Yeah.
he said something like he expects 10 to 15 EFL clubs to go under, and I can see why.
He's smart as well. I don't want him to
Yeah.
be right about that. I really
Yeah,
don't want him
well,
to be right.
if you look at any business, whether it's football, whether it's whatever, if you go months and you're simply burning cash, there are going to be issues that you're bringing nothing in and you're still spending the same on rents, on wages, on whatever it is. There is only a certain amount of time that even the most, solid of businesses can withstand it. So, yeah, these are certainly, really worrying times, especially for the clubs down in, the lower echelons.
And Jack, even your Lutons and your Rotherhams that appear, Colchester even appear to be doing the right thing, their ability to bring in revenue is so limited that even
Yeah.
though they're not spending gargantuan amounts of money, and it's not good, not good at all.
No, it's not good. Right, let's get a question. I think I'm nearly out of questions, actually. Alex Simpson says, having already asked the Hugh Jackman versus Ed Sheeran question, I now have to ask Stephen Fry or Charlie Simpson of Busted fame.
Stephen Fry used to annoy me a bit on QI because he came across quite smug. But I watched a debate. I sound very academic here. A debate with him and Jordan Peterson, the Canadian dude, debating
Yes.
political correctness.
Yes.
And Stephen Fry was amazing. He was
Yeah.
he cut through all of the normal claptrap. I think he's a genuinely decent chap who's had some problems early in his life, and he's a bit of a national treasure now.
He is, yeah.
Charlie Simpson. Now, I saw, and I didn't
must
pay.
admit, if Alex hadn't have put a Busted fame here, I wouldn't have known who Charlie was.
He's from Framlingham, I think. Yeah, is he from Framlingham? Ed Sheeran's definitely from Framlingham.
Yeah,
It's weird that Framlingham has produced these two
yeah.
music behemoths, hasn't it? But I did, and I didn't pay for the ticket, go and see McBusted
Okay.
um, in Chantry Park in Ipswich, where
Yeah,
Ed did his. Did he do 2 shows or 3?
yeah. He did a
However,
couple, didn't
however
he?
many
Yeah.
million fans he he drew. And your mate Jake Humphrey, dearie me, go in there. Still couldn't resist having a dig. It's like you're in our own backyard. The guy's wearing an Ipswich shirt. He's an Ipswich fan. He goes to the games. Leave it out, Jake. Stop. Stop playing to the choir, dearie me. But I don't know him, and I know you do. So yeah, and McBusted was very good, Jack. It was very entertaining.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, they had like big inflatables and big screens, and they played some fun early noughties pop punk classics. And I had some adult beverages and had a lovely time. No, you would, and I know Alex, you would put Stephen Fry above Charlie Simpson.
Yeah, well, I very much like Busted, and I very much like McFly as well. So, yeah, well, weren't them gigs in that summer that literally every single day was about 30 degrees and just
Oh,
wasn't it that summer?
possibly, but halcyon days.
Yeah, I know, just amazing. Right, I think I'm out of question. I did see another question that you might,
Yeah, I've got a good one here. So
yeah,
it's another Ipswich Norwich one, Jack. It's addressed to me, but I'll ask it to you. Oh,
okay.
that doesn't really work because it says, okay, Jack. Growing up, Ipswich was the dominant club in the area. If you agree with me, when and why do you think the positions reversed?
Well, I think that's probably you're better suited to answer that one, mate.
ITV Digital, Paul Lambert.
Okay, I'm gonna have to read that ITV Digital
Yeah.
story because I know bits and bobs about it.
So what
Um,
happens is ITV Digital sets up a deal for all of the Football League TV rights. So they think they've
okay,
got their own deal.
yeah,
Um, Ipswich get relegated along with Derby and Leicester,
okay,
and then the deal goes. So
well,
basically you've got no broadcast revenue. So
yeah,
I mean the equivalent now is you get your solidarity payment, which is 4.5 million, and your broadcast revenue in the championship is it's nothing. It's
yeah,
a couple of million, but it's what you've budgeted for. So all of a sudden, you're like you've just said about burning cash.
mm,
Ipswich, Leicester, and Derby all went into administration. So all
okay.
of the three relegated teams, basically, if you got relegated that season, you were into administration. And
Because you'd planned to spend money you then didn't have.
exactly, yeah,
Right.
you had signed players or kept players
Yeah,
on the balance sheets, and then obviously Ipswich had to sell Haridason and Clapham and Holland, etc. And then Joe Royal fought very hard for a couple of years and couldn't quite get them up.
mm,
Although, in terms of the rivalry, we were still ahead. You're obviously going to go through the dodgy Glenn Roeder
yeah,
stuff and be relegated. The day the tide turned is the day that Paul Lambert walked
mm,
into Carrow Road. And
yeah,
if anyone disagrees with that, okay, with opinion, it just seems mightily obvious that the day he walked in there, um,
yeah,
Norwich have been, even though you were a division down, something happened, and Gary
yeah,
Carza talked about it on your show. And then, of course, the next season, 4-1 and 5-1, and
yeah,
we're now, Marcus Evans is now readjusting. So the ITV Digital starts it, I think, because that puts Ipswich on a, imagine being relegated now, and I know you think I babble on about parachute payments. You're in a pretty nice, cushy
of course
position
you
if
are.
if
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
relegated now. But imagine being relegated and then put into administration and not having 45 million pounds worth of broadcast money, but having zero. That was the
yeah,
situation they were in. And yes, Ipswich fans are still crying about it 20 years later, but it just feels like it's the most Ipswich thing possible. That one season, you do not want to be relegated. To be fair, Leicester, I know they're very catch-rich owners, came back from it, didn't they?
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
there was a time when they had Sven as manager and spent
yeah,
5 million on Matt Mills. So they were.
yeah,
I know you joke, plucky little Bournemouth. Yeah, like plucky little Wolves and plucky little Brighton. Yeah, they were. This wasn't Sheffield United, put it that way. But yeah, that would be my take on when it
yeah.
when
I
it
think
when it reversed.
you're probably right. There was a similar thing with kind of broadcast money, maybe not quite coming through with Norwich. Was it 25th? No, 20. Whenever we last got relegated under
Adams.
Under Adams. And if we would have stayed up for another season,
did it go up like
that was when the
renegotiation
of the broadcast deals happened. And Norwich fans don't really talk about it too much anymore, but I think there was a feeling at the time that if we would have survived that season and then pulled in I think it was like triple the money or something stupid.
It's ridiculous.
We maybe could have established ourselves as a Premier League club. Although we came up this season and expected to establish ourselves as a Premier League club, and it never quite. So
the conversation we had today in the fabled Blue Monday WhatsApp group is just the feeling that over the last 20 years, Ipswich have been hapless and quote in the wrong place at the wrong time, and Norwich have been very, and I mean this as a compliment, very ruthless, and even down to David McNally not letting Paul Lambert leave the stadium without basically you're coming to manage us. Your next game is not going to be for Colchester. They've been very ruthless, even going and getting Stuart Webber. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure we'll get comments saying, oh well, one has run the club well and one has run the club not well. And yes, you can argue that, but there just does seem to be a feeling that Ipswich try this stuff and it doesn't work, and Norwich do it and have one good season, up they go, promoted. Do you know what I mean? That's the feeling from that when you guys get it right, bosh.
Yeah.
Out champions. Do you know what I mean? And when we get it wrong, by God, do we, like Paul Hurst and Roy Keane and Paul Jewell just hiring the wrong guys other than McCarthy for years. And also Norwich being really, let's say, ruthless. Sack managers quickly. Do you know what I mean? And get them out.
The one that I think being ruthless, the one hire that I think Delia probably puts down as our worth was Jez Moxey. And
what position did he hold?
He was basically Stuart. He was like director.
He was chief exec at Wolves, was he?
He was, yeah. And Wolves fans hated him. And then I think he's at like Burton or somewhere now.
Okay.
But we paid him a whole shed of money to get rid of him because it was like we just need to, cut our losses early doors. And then after Moxey, Stuart came in, and the rest is history, sort of thing.
Am I right, Jack? Is Webber's wife working for you beforehand?
Yeah. So
some Ipswich fans believe that Norwich are that calculating. Right, get his wife in first, and now we'll get him, won't we?
Well, there is kind of truth in that. I mean, it was McNally that brought Zoe in from Fulham. I think she was at Fulham because.
So what does she do?
So I'm going to sound. She is
some kind of executive.
Yeah, so she was responsible for bringing Luis Suarez into Liverpool. So she was at Liverpool, then I think went to Fulham, then Fulham to Norwich, I think. So she handles a lot of contracts and player negotiations and things like that. I actually sat next to her at a dinner and she's very, very impressive, really switched on. But I think a lot of people think it was Stuart at the club first and then Zoe came in. It was the other way round. Zoe was at the club for quite a while before Stuart came in. But I think Zoe had a influence in bringing
I could
Stuart
just imagine very dry intellectual conversations over dinner with those two, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, Stuart's
how was work today, darling? Oh, I'm taking over the world, darling. Oh, I did lots of legal stuff, darling. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely. Oh God, no, they're a very, very good couple for sure. And there was another question. I haven't got it written down, so apologies. I can't remember who asked it, but it was something along the lines of, would Mick still be at the club if it wasn't for that game in which Close scored the last minute winner and he told your fans to go away in a slightly ruder.
I don't think he would. No, I think he'd positioned himself where he knew it was the right time to go, and he spoke about it in the press conferences. He even said, "I've got to look after the Mick McCarthy brand," and I think for him, the timing of getting out was important, even literally down to which game. It's no coincidence that he quit after a midweek win that bumped us up 2 places in the table. So for the next years, he can say, I left them in 12th place instead of in 14th place or what have you. No, I don't think so. And I don't want to be revisionist about Mick because I was upset at him at the time because I felt that he'd made the fans look silly, and I felt that he turned press and stuff against us. And then for a year, we had to put up with Ipswich failing and people blaming the fans. And it's like, look, of all the people who are innocent and not, don't have a go at us. For God's sake, we turn up year after year after year, and it's not been good for 15 years. So I was upset at him. If I were him, would I have done the same thing? And I was in as deep as he was, probably.
Yeah.
You defend yourself. He's smart though.
Yeah.
If you look how clever his right, I'll get out, I'll take an international job, just get me away from this for a little while. And then he even manages to be paid off from the international job at a point where it's not finished. So if it goes well, I did the groundwork.
Yeah.
If they don't if I'd have been there. And
yeah,
Jack, Gary Monk, lose a few more games, Sheffield Wednesday, Cardiff, Borough, in goes Mick. He's going, and his first season's always really good. My ultimate nightmare though was that he would be back the next season, and he definitely would have won at Portman Road, wouldn't he? 1-0 with a goal from a corner. Wouldn't have celebrated it, but no, I don't. I think it had, and this is what the people from the outside didn't really understand. I think it was done. It had run its course, and what people still don't understand is that Mick going is not the cause of the collapse. The cause of the collapse was Mick going, allied with the succession planning, the sales of Webster, Waghorn, Garner, and Selena all in one go. Let's sell all our goals and bring in an untried manager. Just the succession planning was dreadful, absolutely dreadful. And would I rather be 12th in the Championship? Yes, I would.
Right, I am out of questions.
I think I think we probably better call it quits there. Anyway, Jack, because
we've been going a little while, haven't we? There were a few videos that people wanted us to make in the comments, so there will be more of these. Don't you worry. We'll probably be back again next week. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you're watching on TalkNorwichCity, then links to Ben's channel will be in the description below. I know a few of you wanted to head over and watch some of his more financial-based videos, so head over there. And any last words, man?
Oh, I just feeling bad because I don't link your channel in my thing now, but I will do so. You've got like 1 million subscribers anyway, so go to Jack's channel, Talk Norwich City, where you'll see the excellent Jack.
Thank you.
And the excellent Chris.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again very soon. Bye bye.